work for Blumberg as one of the application specialists, the equity product. I've been at Blumberg for about 7 years, and in that time I've worked in various different parts, but now essentially my job is to look after the cash equity product. That's company analysis, it's idea generation, it's lots of different things within the world of equity as an asset class, so stocks traded on an exchange. So one of the responsibilities I have within that is visiting clients around the world, or technically speaking in Europe, and Russia is one place I come to. I also go to Denmark, Sweden, a number of other places, and in all of those countries I go and see our clients who work in the buy side, in hedge funds, asset managers, pension funds, and on the sell side in banks, seeing people working in equity sales, working as an equity analyst, and doing various other tasks like that. So today, whilst I'm going to be talking about company valuation and how Bloomberg helps for company valuation and some of the different approaches, a lot of this comes from meeting clients and seeing how clients do the valuation themselves. So seeing how they pick stocks effectively and how they make decisions for all of their investment processes. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask during the process. I'm happy to stop and go through things whilst it's relevant. And if you have any questions afterwards, then just come and ask afterwards. Okay?
Коллеги, такой формат предлагается. У нас здесь переводчик, который может все перевести, если вам непонятно. Мы сейчас исходим из того, что в общем и целом то, что господин Вильямс говорит, это всем понятно. Просто для того, чтобы у него было больше времени, чтобы мы не останавливались на перевод. I just informed everyone so that if they have questions, they could use our interpreter to ask questions or ask her to interpret some things.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so without further ado, we'll get going. Do like 45 minutes or so, and the goal is to really look at company valuation. And my plan was to go through 3 things. So I wanted to show you single security valuation as an absolute style. So that means looking at a company on its own, deciding based on your opinion of what's going to happen in the market, what's going to happen with that particular company within that context, how you can value it. So this is going to be the main approach, and I think it's the beginning point for anybody who's doing company analysis. After that, I wanted to have a look at relative valuation. So this is, generally speaking, after you've taken a view on a sector, if you want to work out relative to the other companies and based on its peers, how you can build up a view of what the company is worth. Okay? So this is an approach taken by the majority of investors when they try and decide if they've got the right stock to express their view. And lastly, which we'll just look at very briefly because it's not as interesting, but it still has some uses, we'll use transaction style of valuation. So that is looking at deals, mergers and acquisitions, and how you can actually apply mergers and acquisitions deals to the value of a company. Okay? The last one will be a little bit more theoretical. Okay? Now, all of these, what I want to do is talk about the idea and then show you some functions inside Bloomberg. The idea today will be so that you can use these things yourselves, right? And work from there. Okay? So, first things first, we'll have a look at building up an idea of the absolute value of a company. And as I'm sure across the room, there's varying different levels of experience of the ideas that come into that process. But one of the key processes for anybody who's valuing a company, whether you work as a market analyst, and I'll show you a couple of models that we can see in research in a moment, or whether you work in investment banking trying to come up with the next deal to determine what share price a company should float at, they'll generally build some form of discounted cash flow model. Okay? And discounted cash flow model can be based on a number of different things. It can be based on dividends. It can be based on free cash flow to the equity, so just to equity stakeholders. It can be based on free cash flow to the firm. And depending on the type of company that you're going to look at, you'll choose a different model. So just in the most simple way, that's an interesting noise. In the most simple way, you've got, we'll take the dividend discount model. This is a model that's applicable to companies that, as you would imagine, pay dividends. So you need to be able to take a view of what dividends they're going to be paying in the future, discount them down to their present value, and then you divide it by the number of shares outstanding to come up with a theoretical price. Okay? Nice and easy. It's really as simple as that. Okay? The next step would be a full discounted cash flow based on free cash flow overall that the business is generating. And the hardest part with any of that is determining the sorts of adjustments that you make. Calculating the amount of cash that a company is generating is not a complicated process. You can use fairly basic assumptions for growth. You can take market reference data, so that's forecasts from all of the different banks out there that produce values. And you can even come up with your own completely own adjusted estimation across the board. Okay. All of those things will let you work out a free cash flow element. You make your adjustments as is necessary, and again, you repeat the process. Okay? So what I'll show you is a couple of places where we can see some of that information, see it in action, and then see what will help you build up your discounted cash flow sets. Okay? So first things first, we have inside Bloomberg, and I'm going to use Magnete as an example, and I really should whilst I'm here. Now, here you've got the menu inside Bloomberg. The menu is really the easiest way to find all of the things that I'm going to be talking about inside Bloomberg today. Those of you that like remembering the codes, I'll also explain what the codes are so that you can just type one line to see a value. But once we're inside here, valuation comes up as part of the company analysis. And because it's generally speaking not done as a main activity, because these models tend to be built from scratch by everyone as a learning process in Excel anyway, we don't have it at the front. You can click on company analysis and you'll see on the right hand side all of our different valuation tools. Okay. Now, the first one that I'll talk about, just because of the ease of where it comes from, is the dividend discount model, the simplest version. You're valuing the cash that you get as an equity shareholder in the form of dividends. So this is really assuming that the company pays dividends. Does Magnete pay dividends yet? I can't remember. Yes, that's fine. Phew, that would have been awkward. Okay, so this is a very simple and very old function inside Bloomberg. It's there to give you an idea of how you can build up an idea of the company's performance. Now we take a couple of simple assumptions. You'll see we have all of the different forecasts for earnings and for dividends. We have 3 stages of a company's performance: growth, transition from growth phase to maturity, and then maturity. And what this is saying is that, and this is a default setting, is that Magnete will have 7 years of growth. So they're going to be going through a growth cycle of 7 years. Probably a little bit unrealistic, but it's a default that you can come in and change. It will then have 10 years to transition between that point of high growth to its final exit growth rate. Okay? And again, the long-term growth rate here is slightly ridiculous, but this is sell-side analysts for you. All of these things you can change to make them more realistic. So for a retailer, I would imagine a long-term growth rate might be something along the lines of 4 to 5%. Maybe you want to change, let's not be quite that harsh, because it's, we'll keep it at 10. Wow.
US, US mobile applications in Estonia.
Okay, we keep that quiet. We can tweak all of these. Apparently the growth rates here will skew it quite a bit. I won't look to this example in too much detail. But you can see that just by changing some of the variables inside there, we're having an effect on the theoretical price. So if I say that there will be 10 years of growth, maybe 12 years of transitional, and then exit growth will be 10%, it's going to work out. Supposedly, this will lead to a theoretical price of 5,688 rubles. But that's not necessarily valid given the early stage of dividends and other points within that particular analysis. But this is a very, very basic calculator to put those points forward. Now, you might be wondering where those numbers on the left-hand side come from. Okay? These come from all of the different sell-side researchers providing us with data. To give you an example of where you can see them, I'm going to load Magnet, and I'm going to show you the earnings and estimates. Yeah. Don't touch that. Okay. I'll stay away for a second. Cool. So earnings and estimates here is where you have all of the data about from the different banks. So you'll see that we show you the forecast of what all of the banks expect them to be making. Okay? So this sits side by side with the fundamentals. I'm going to show you the fundamentals afterwards because I think they're more relevant when we look at a free cash flow model. But you'll see here that the market thinks that basically Magnet's